What's going on, guys? Bryce Lewis here, back with another vlog. Good week of training, actually. Probably one of the best weeks of training in a very long time. This is probably the biggest training total that I've hit in forever. So as you'll see, big squat, big bench, big deadlift. Just a good week overall. Also one of those weeks where soreness levels were pretty moderate to moderate high. Things felt slow but moved quickly, so just a sign that fatigue is building up. I have a deload week coming up next week. End of the week on Sunday now, Matt Vincent and Bonnie Schroeder came by for a training session, so we got to hang out, chat, just talk and chill for a while. Natalie was doing some rehab work in the gym as she makes her way toward Open Worlds. So yeah, it was just good to catch up. I spent some time with Matt down in Los Angeles before, so him and Bonnie were passing through here, so always good to see them. Anyway, enjoy the vlog up ahead. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is take 2 of a voice recording. I had some thoughts to say about emerging strategies and what I think it means to program for athletes, but I just kind of ended up talking myself in circles and just recognizing some of the biases that I might have as I progress my way forward, trying to be a good steward of strength sport. Anyways, there is something to say, at least. I wanted to go off on, some tangents about emerging strategies and whether it is or isn't effective or something like that. So I'll at least start off somewhere. I was thinking about emerging strategies a lot this week, or at least parts of it. The parts that might bump heads with traditional periodization or linear periodization or changes in training structure week to week based on some Q&A Instagram stuff that I saw from Reactive Training Systems. So I guess I have more thoughts on this and I have more thinking to do so that I'm not just rambling and I have something clear and concise to say. But for now, the thing that I really want to say is emerging strategies at its heart assumes that we start somewhere, we follow training responses, and we make decisions based on those training responses for the athlete. Not everyone progresses best following traditional daily undulating periodization and linear adaptations on a week-to-week basis and progressing from point A to point B with heavier loads at the outset, or when you finally get to them. Some athletes might progress best when you keep the loads overall lighter, when you keep the fatigue lighter, or the overall intensity or session RPE a little bit on the lighter side. Maybe there's some responses on a lift-by-lift basis where bench press progresses better when it's heavier, squat and deadlift progress better when they're lighter, or vice versa. How do we know? Well, we know because we have the athlete do some training, we analyze the results of that training, and we make decisions based on what the athlete is telling us, taking data into account and making decisions from there. The point that I'm trying to make here is, yes, we should follow the athlete training response. I think that's extremely important, and that's probably one of the things that separates coaching from templates. True coaching is responsive. It's responsive to what the athlete is doing in real time, and it is in the service of chasing what's best for the athlete. What is best for the athlete might change at different points of time, but it's responsive, it's communicative, and it adapts, whereas templates don't. Templates might give you some flexibility, but there is no back and forth, no interplay, or considering the nuance of what the athlete is going through, or adjusting in major ways based on what you've learned about the athlete. My only point is that even in an emerging strategies framework, we can't start off in a bias-free way. We can't start off purely looking at the data. We've got to put something on the page, and the something that we put on the page is a byproduct of conversations with the athlete, maybe looking at some technique, but it's also a byproduct of what we've learned, who we've learned it from, what has worked for us specifically, and what has worked in our coaching in athletes that might be similar to the athlete that we're talking to. So, if anything, I think that we just need to recognize that's what's happening, and to recognize that there is no bias-free follow the data way that when we start. And if we recognize that, then we know that we just have to chase training response in any case, whether we're having a static microcycle or not. And as long as we're responsive, then we are using a strategy that emerges from the athlete experience, whether or not it has a static microcycle. So I'm curious to see if the idea of a static microcycle stays around for a long time. The idea of following a training response is extremely important. I'm all for it and have been doing that for a long time. But you still have to have a place to start. And that place to start, again, comes from a background of what has worked for you, not to mention looking at the available data on what works for athletes generally and considering whether or not we think that's a good thing to do. So, if you assume that athletes generally are going to be around the bell curve, which is a pretty safe assumption, then we might want to start with training patterns that fit athletes around the bell curve. Generally the right amount of training volume, generally the right amount of training frequency, generally intensities in a range that we see work for athletes, and then take things from there. I guess another point is the fact that athletes get so strong in so many different ways just tells me that we can free ourselves in some extent from needing to be so precise with training and just saying, well, we just need to figure out generally the broad brushstrokes for athletes. Does the body really know the difference between a set of 7 and a set of 8? Does the body really know the difference between 320 pounds and 315 pounds? Well, probably not. It's looking at mechanical tension. And Brian Miner, who I'm actually just going to see right after I record this, has done some fantastic podcasts and writing on exactly that topic, and has presented, I think, for JPS on that. So if you're interested more on the underlying roots of what is strength training, what is hypertrophy training, what is actually happening when we train, he's a wonderful person to go look at. So that's just kind of been in the background. Mike Tushira and I have had conversations on this. We've presented together on numerous occasions, and if there's one thing that I love, it's that we're kind of always challenging each other's biases and continuing some of these conversations for the benefit of everyone. Just kind of some balance here, and I really enjoy that. There hasn't been a single conversations where I felt like ego has been the driver of what someone says or something like that. It's just been for the athlete, for the sake of athletes, for the sake of uncovering truth of what strength training is and what it's really about and what we're trying to get at. So that's one thing I really appreciate, and it's been nice to be a part of that. So Mike, I respect you for that, and I appreciate that. To the actual heavy lifts this week, I finished up with a 760 deadlift, which was awesome. That's actually coming up right now. Straps because my hands are still coming into their own on calluses. I've torn 3 calluses this week. I think I just have to balance this blend of 2 heavy holds and then 2 competition deadlift days, and figure out which things are going to need straps and which things I want to use my hands for, because it's probably not all of them straps free. So it's just kind of which ones are going to take the brunt of the work and which ones I'm okay with using straps for. I've also got some ripped skin system stuff to kind of keep track of these calluses, hopefully keep them a little bit more pliable, but I'm doing plenty of grip work and hoping to make my heavy stuff in the coming days without straps, just so that I know I can hold what I need to for competition. But squats, another big win, up to 683 pounds for my single at 8, and bench press up to 220 kilos, 485 pounds. Those are really heavy lifts for me. We're talking 96, 97% or something like that. So the fact they're moving as they are makes me feel very optimistic. Now on paper, before I talked with my coach, next week was planned to be 8.5 RPE, but I think we're heavy enough that we might just kind of put things on the coaster for 1 week before we reset a progression up into nationals. So I wouldn't be surprised if we finish out before competition somewhere around these same numbers, which would be a really comfortable and really good way to go. But it's really about sustainability and making sure that we don't push that envelope too far into competition. Like, the strength is there for what I need. If I competed next week even, I think I'd be ready. But the question is just, can I get to competition ready enough and, maybe even add a little bit of strength from what we're showing here. So, great week in the books as far as things go. Off to see Brian Miner for a little barbecue, play some Dungeons & Dragons, and continue work on this charcuterie meat and cheese experiment that I've been got going. You heard it here. All right. Hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.